間か
ただいまから天皇陛下のお言葉がございます。新しい年を共に祝うことを嬉しく思います。年頭にあたり世界の平安と人々の幸せを祈ります。
Although Japanese emperor is symbol of the nation and has nothing to do with political and militaristic decisions in the present days, it is notable that he was the acme of Japanese fascistic hegemony until the defeat of World War II. In this video, however, I would like to examine that the social structure that made Japanese emperor absolutism possible, and I would like to propose that social structure still remains in Japanese society today as senpai-kohai relationship.
先輩好きです。
先輩
あなたが好きなの。
先輩
To introduce the senpai-kohai relationship as a part of Japanese soft nationalism, I would like to focus on 3 points: the concept of senpai and kohai, the structure of it, and the issues with the relationship. So the first concept of senpai and kohai. Senpai is anyone above you in terms of age, grade, and positions, and kohai is anyone below you in terms of age, grade, and positions. Most of us encounter this unique way of building social relationship in middle school.
I mean, everybody knows it starts from middle school, and then see them using this keigo, they apply politer language to their upperclassmen, which you never really do during the elementary school, and suddenly you start doing it. So
usually you have to call your senpai's name like name plus senpai to show your respect.
ゆい先輩がゆい先輩ゆい先輩ゆい先輩のいつ先輩
There is a similar structure to senpai-kohai relationship in the United States, but it is more than that.
So anything by default, anything that upperclassman tells you to do, it's go buy some things juice from the vending machines. You can try to refuse it, but you have to sort of accept it.
It is much more strict than one in the United States, and there is always an article about appropriate way of wearing uniforms based on your grade in Fashion Magazine for middle school students. The distinction between grades are visually obvious, so you can't ignore the year difference.
パッと見でわかるしね、先輩が後輩かってのは。
それはなんで？
それはこう制服を着て通学するじゃん。で私立だからみんな通学するのね、中学校の時から長いこと時間かけて。で通学してる時の靴の紐の色が違うってのと、で学校に着いたら靴脱ぐけど、上履きの色が違うし、なんかここにこのどのクラスに自分が所属してるかのバッジつけるし、
もちろん田舎の公立高校だから結構意識させられる場所とかはあったけど、
例えば
文化祭とかはやっぱり学年ごとに動くし、学年ごとに色が体育服の色とか違うしから。
Social life at school is dominated by the structure pretty much, and it tends to be more solid in clubs, especially athletic clubs.
イニシエーションみたいな最初にある。入学してから1週間後ぐらいに、部室に練習終わった後に1年生部室の方に残って今日みたいな感じに言われて、で思ってて、1年生部室の外で待っててっていうなって、じゃあ帰ってきていいよっつって、部室の中で2年生がこうすごいなんか 怖そうな顔しながらみんな黙って座ってて、で1年生がこうやって並んで、お前らがなんでここに集められたのか分かる、やる気あんのって、そういう指導っていうのが必ず1週間後かに10日後ぐらいにあって、でそこでなんかお前ら中学とここは違えんだぞっていうのを、こうめちゃくちゃにいろんなことを言われて、そこでみんな精神的に非常にリフレッシュってどっちかというとリフレッシュっていうのがデストロイのとことん自信を叩きのめされるっていう、いくつかそういうなんか守んなきゃいけないクライテリアあるじゃん、こんにちはって言わなきゃいけないとか走んなきゃいけないとか、この前歩いてたでしょみたいな、何だろうみたいな、なんかまあ答えられなかったら、お前そういう態度が意味があんねんだよ。
How does this social structure work, or how did this contribute to Japanese emperor absolutism back in the 19th century? Masao Maruyama, who is political scientist, analyzes why Japan was called ultranationalism during Japanese militaristic regime. After the Meiji Restoration, all the power among political and militaristic decisions were passed to emperor, although shogun was served as a political leader before the change. This change had established emperor-centered political and militaristic structure, which was heavily based on seniority system like senpai-kohai relationship. But how does structure work? In Japanese society, people tend to follow their senpai and leaders rather than obeying rules. In this system, the strict hierarchy was established, and sociologist Chie Nakano analyzes the senpai-kohai relationship in her book. In that relationship, she explained that B and C follow A, but D and E only follow B, and they can follow A only through B.
なんか質問があったりしても後任には直接質問には行かない。
あ、そうなの？
中3がこうなんか中1の指導係みたいな感じだったから、こうまず中3に聞きに行くみたいな。で中3が分かんないことだったら、中1が直接後任に聞きに行くんじゃなくて、中3が後任に聞いたのを中1に言うみたいな。
However, this structure contains some controversial discussion points.
ルールの違い、なんか多分オフィシャルなルールではあんまりないけど、なんか一個あったのは、なんかこう部活中に、なんて言うんだっけあれ、片足重心、はなんかこう基本的にしちゃダメみたいなルールがあったんだけど、まあなんか中3ぐらいになってくるとこう、まあやってても。
Since people tend to follow their leaders, not rules, there is no absolute rules based on ethical judgment. Maruyama argues what constrains individuals' behavior is not absolute rules, roles, or whatsoever, but those who are in the higher position in the hierarchy, that is, senpai. Since there is no rules that can be fairly applied to everyone regardless of their positions, that means the higher you are in the system, the less pressure to constrain your behavior. That is one of the factors for Japanese extreme fascism during World War II. Since there is no principles to obey, people automatically follow their direct senpai without realizing that they contributed to build a fascistic structure. Also, the gap is so strong that it's impossible to have a critical conversation between different ages. In Japanese, there are 3 types of polite language and there are strict rules which and when to use, and that just simply makes it impossible to have a fair and equal discussion among everyone. Here, Nakane Love writes that since people follow people in the structured society, the wellness of the group heavily depends on emotional relationship between members.
人は話さなかった。でもだってやることは決まってるじゃん。でまあ、そのやることメニュー考えるのはキャプテンか監督じゃん、基本的に。
他の人たちはどうしてるの？
片付けとかも決まってるもん、ルールがあって、やる順番とやるタイミングがもう決まってるから、命令とか必要だよ。
で、それにこう毎日従う感じ？
そう。
あ、じゃあほとんど話す機会もなかったんだ。
話す必要もないしね。
That makes it almost impossible for Kohai to make critical comments to senpai's perspectives because it's deemed impolite. So the group ends up following anything the leader says.
それでなんかまあ上下関係みたいなのがすごくあって、で
じゃあ先生には、
テストの再テストがあるから、今日部活ちょっと遅れますみたいなのが許されなかったか、なんかもういや部活はもうこの時間から始まるからで、まあ、テストが再テストとか宿題が多いのは君の責任でしょみたいな感じで絶対にこの時間に来なさいみたいな。 全くほとんどしなかったね。
しなかった。
結局その先生がやっぱもうそういう考えずっとやってて、いや何も
もうほとんどないんだ。
もうやめたいんだってか、このくらいもう柔道にコミットできないんだったらもうやめていいよみたいな。
This also has been said to be a reason why Japanese academia has not sophisticated well, not only for academic fields, but the absence of discussion and nothing but emotional and dramatic debate that lacks critical thinking of subject does only harm to the society. In the end, again, I would like to emphasize that group structure in Japan heavily depends on senpai-kohai relationship that lacks ethical judgment and critical interaction between people.